Often when a manufacturer releases a facelift of an existing model, you need to have them both side by side to really be able to tell the difference. And even then, they're often quite subtle. Not the case with this MG5 Estate car. The changes are so vast, both on the exterior and interior, that to be honest, it feels like an all-new model. The only significant thing that hasn't changed is the drive-in side of it. But in terms of the aesthetics, in terms of the quality of materials that have used, this is worlds apart from the outgoing model. The car now comes in just 2 trim levels. You've got SE Long Range, which gives you 250 miles of range WLTP, and Trophy Long Range, which gives you 235 miles of range WLTP. Now, the SE Long Range is just a shade under 31 grand, where the Trophy model is actually about 33.5 grand. The Trophy does come with quite a lot more kit though. You've got things like rear privacy glass, you've got a 360 camera, you've got heated front seats, automatic wipers are not standard on the SE Long Range, for example. So it's probably the one to be thinking about. And 33.5 grand is not quite the budget car that perhaps MG used to offer, but really compare it to something like an ID.3 and you're getting a hell of a lot more car here for that same amount of money. Now, the MG5 is not the fastest charging car in the world, but it has got this here, the charging sockets at the front, which is a bit of a triumph if you ask me. I don't know why more cars don't have the charging socket on the front. It makes it much easier quite often when pulling into sometimes really tight public charging bays. Now, on a 100 kilowatt charger, this will go from 10 to 80% in around about 40 minutes. On a 50 kilowatt charger, 10 to 80% is going to take you an hour. So the boot's a good size and shape. Up to the low cover, you've got 464 litres of space, which again competes well against something like an ID.3. But this is an estate car, that is a hatchback, so, you know, it should be better, shouldn't it? It's a really good shape as well, nice and easy to get large items in and out. There is quite a load lip, probably about 3 inches. However, I like a load lip. It stops your shopping falling out. I don't know why so many people are against them. With all the seats down, you've got a whopping 1,367 litres of boot space. But bad news if you want to tow with this car, ladies and gents, it can only manage 500 kilos. Sitting in the back of this new MG5 feels quite a bit more premium than it did in the outgoing model. In this Trophy model, we've got nice leather or leather effect seats with some interesting textures going on as well. Big central armrest with a couple of cup holders. Down here, the vents are in a really odd position. They're basically on the floor, and then you've got a USB-A and a USB-C there, and then just a tiny little storage cubby there. You've also got pockets in the back of the seats here. Headroom is really good in here. You'd be more than comfortable in here at 6 foot, despite the fact that the rear seats are perhaps a smidge higher up than the front seats. There is space to put your feet under the driver's seat, but it's not extremely generous. Obviously, the batteries are under there, but it is better than something like an EV6 or a Genesis GV60, for example. You've actually got a completely flat floor as well, which means you can sit in this middle seat. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world, but you could easily get 3 adults in here for a reasonable journey without too many punch-ups. Moving into the front of the MG5, it really feels like it's taken a step up from that outgoing model. That felt like a budget car, to be fair. Let's not make no bones about it. Nothing wrong with it as such, but it felt like a budget car. This one almost feels like a premium car, and I would take this interior over the interior in any of the VW ID cars. It's that good. Obviously this looks like metal, but it's actually plastic. There is a bit of piano black there, which I despise piano black. You'll probably know that if you've seen any of my other reviews. So there is a bit of piano black there that obviously is going to gather fingerprints and dust and scratches. But elsewhere, I mean, this little hatch here for this storage cubby, for example, that's better than you get in an Audi at the moment. It really feels solid. The centre console's a bit higher than the outgoing model. You've also got a big storage area under here with a non-slip mat, which is quite nice. No wireless charging, which is a bit of a shame, but there you go. It comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard, but they are wired and not wireless. We've also got sat-nav. The major downside of this layout is the fact that we don't have physical buttons for the aircon. We have got a button there, a shortcut button that takes you to the aircon screen, but it's all a little bit fiddly, not massively responsive, and it's just over-engineered really. Much simpler would have been a little rocker switch or something. But there we go. It is a car built to a price, and in fairness, a lot more premium cars than this fail on aircon controls, don't they? We've also got a nice clear driver information display that doesn't leave you lacking for anything really. It sort of does the job. Nice and bright, so no issue seeing that even with strong sunlight coming in. Glove box over here, fairly unastounding. It's a glove box, and we have got two USB connections and a 12 volt down there. They're both USB-A, so the only USB-C in the car is right down there in the back. The gear selectors are very simple, functional, sort of rotational dial like you would get in Kia vehicles, for example. It actually feels better made than those. It feels a bit sturdier than those, which is really a tip of the hat to folks at MG, because that does feel nice. You've also got drive mode selector here and a 𝘾𝙃 selector, which will delight F1 fans, I guess. No flappy paddles to control that regen braking. Instead, you've got a little selector here. So that means around town you can basically use one pedal driving more or less. And then obviously when you're out on the motorway, you can let it coast a little bit more, so you're always driving in the most efficient way possible. Steering wheel's nice and comfortable. They haven't used the best leather again. It's obviously some sort of leatherette. It feels a little bit rubbery. I don't know, it's a tough one for me because they've done it on a few cars, MG, and that's something that makes it feel a bit cheaper, and it's the bit that you're touching the whole time. I always think manufacturers should probably spend a tad more on the quality of the leather and the feel of the steering wheel, because being the bit that you touch all the time, that really helps you build your impression of the car. But it's a minor gripe really. Thumb controls, everything here is all laid out very, very nicely, all works perfectly well. No issues with that whatsoever, brilliant. Onto the volume controls, you've got up and down buttons here, physical buttons. And you've got up and down, fast forward, skip, whatever, mute on the steering wheel. What we don't have over here is any way to mute or turn off your current sound source other than pressing the screen, which is a little bit disappointing. It would have been nice if they just had a power button or something in case, you know, something happens and you just quickly want to turn it off, or your passenger wants to turn it off. But again, these are minor gripes. This is a very nicely put together cabin. Their build quality is very good. This new MG5's got 156 PS of power and a reasonably impressive 0 to 62 time of 7.3 seconds, although it is prone to a bit of wheel spin in the wrong conditions, or should I say in the right conditions, I don't know. Road manners generally though are very good. It's a nice comfortable ride, and really you'll do long journeys in this without a great deal of fatigue. It's a very easy car to live with. What I don't like about the drive is the steering wheel. It's very vague, it's not very direct. Now some of you watching this will no doubt enjoy a light steering feel. For me it feels a wee bit fidgety. I feel like I'm making adjustments all the time. I am obviously quite tuned into these things, however, it has to be said. Safety features have improved on this new MG5. It's now got emergency braking as standard, so it will help you out if disaster is about to happen, which is great. It's also got things like adaptive cruise control, although I have to say, I don't think that's very good. It feels like it needs a software update or something, because it doesn't seem particularly accurate in terms of knowing how far away the car in front of you is in reality, and it seems a little bit inconsistent, so I think just a couple of tweaks need to happen there, but a minor gripe really. Otherwise, road manners, as I said before, are really good. No issues going around corners, despite the fact that the steering's a bit numb. The suspension's well weighted, it doesn't feel overly wallowy, also doesn't feel sort of overly bangy and crashy as some EVs can, because obviously they're heavier than standard internal combustion engine cars in general terms. It's just a nice car to drive, a nice thing to live with. It's not really a driving experience, but it's a family estate car. It's not an M3. One thing that is massively annoying is the indicator sound. I don't know if my microphone will pick it up, but I'm just gonna make a turn up here and you can hear it for yourself. It sounds like, I don't know, an old clock or something. It's just awful, it's so loud. Are you getting that, folks? Just find it a bit intrusive, to be fair. It's just too loud. I think the actual tone would be all right if it were just a little bit quieter. First world problems, eh? Really, I've been massively impressed by this new MG5. I had a certain level of expectation. I was expecting a budget family car, and it really feels like a step above. This feels like it's really starting to compete at a slightly different level. And is it not brilliant to see someone still offering a good old school family estate car in 2023? Because I'm convinced there's still a market for them, and it's great to see MG serving that market. So in summary then, I'll start with the bad points, and these are fairly minor gripes if we're being completely fair. First one's probably the biggest gripe that I would have, is the fact that the car doesn't have a heat pump. For me, a heat pump is a bit of an essential thing if I'm going to buy an EV, simply because the battery range struggles during the winter months on cars without a heat pump. It would have been nice to have at least seen it as an option. It's noisier than some on the road. It doesn't quite have the level of sound insulation that some of its rivals have. Having said that, you know, it performs a lot better than some as well. Putting the power down can be a little bit of an issue at times. In the wet, if you sort of power down at sort of a decent lock to pull out of a junction quickly, you're going to get a lot of wheel spin and a bit of a burning rubber smell. The steering feel is the other thing. It's just too vague for me. But bear in mind, I review cars for a living. I'm very sensitive to these kind of things. And for a lot of people, they might actually really enjoy that super light steering feel. It's just not for me. As to the positives, it's practical, massively practical. It's really well priced. It looks way better than the outgoing model, and that interior quality has really gone up to a different level. This is a really good old school estate car at a time when lots of manufacturers have sort of abandoned them or are thinking about abandoning them. Volvo. If you'd like to look at how much it would cost to lease an MG5, click my link in the description and pin as a top comment to Lease Loco, where you'll see all the best deals available on an MG5 at the time you're watching this video. And please give the video a thumbs up. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.